Hey, what's up? My name's Nicole, and today I'm going to be discussing my thoughts and findings and even questions about a movie I recently watched, which was Vivarium. And so I just thought it'd be fun to kind of come on here and kind of maybe, I guess, open a discussion about the film and see what other people thought and if they agree or disagree or whatever, see what else they found out, because I actually have not looked up much about this film yet. I probably will after this, but I just kind of wanted to give my general thoughts and ideas on the little bit of research that I did find. And yeah, let's just kind of get into it. So basically, also, in case you have not watched this film yet, I will be giving spoilers. I am a big fan of spoilers, but I am aware that not everyone is. So if you are not into that and you do not want to know what this film is about yet, I would say maybe don't watch it because I will give a lot away. So basically, if you have not watched this film yet, it is about a couple who is named Gemma and Tom. And it kind of, Gemma is a teacher and Tom is like a yard keeper or groundskeeper, I guess, for the school that Gemma teaches at. So it opens up and they are discussing that they need to find a place to live. And so they go to a real estate agency to look at some more places. And this is like kind of like a suburban area that they're looking into called Yonder. And once they go to this real estate agency, they meet a man named Martin. Now Martin then is very odd. He is kind of creepy and he does not act like a normal person would, I guess. I mean, I'm sure some people probably do act like that, but let's just say he didn't have this same social skills that a lot of people do have when, you know, they meet people for the first time. Anyways, so they meet him and he's kind of just like, oh, do you want to see it? Like, follow me, let's go. Do you have a car? Let's go check this place out right now. And even though they think that this man is a little weird, they agree because they need to find a place to live. So they agree to follow him to Yonder. Once they get there, all the houses look very similar. It's your typical like suburban-esque type of area. All the houses look similar, you know, they're all the same size, color, shape, everything. Backyards all look the same. Front yards all look the same. Everything's the same. And they kind of check out the house really quickly, and then as they are trying to leave, they realize Martin is not with them anymore. They're kind of just left on their own. So, okay, they don't really think too much into it. They do think it's a little weird, but then they decide, okay, whatever, let's just leave. So they get in their car and they are trying to leave the neighborhood, but they realize that they are lost. They, you know, make a couple of circles all around until eventually their car kind of just dies because it has no more gas, and they just decide, okay, we're just gonna sleep here because they don't know how to get out of the area. But of course, I think they do think something is a little strange about this situation. And the next day, I think it's the next day, they try to, I think Tom, he climbs on top of the house trying to see the way out, and he just sees houses for like miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. And I think at this point, he kind of realizes that they're not going to get out. They try and burn down the house down to no avail. And then I think it's like the third day or something like that, they are delivered a child in a box, and they are told that if they raise that child, they will then be released. So I think it's obvious at this point that they know that they are trapped here, and so they just continue to raise this kid. And the kid is very strange. He does a lot of imitation, and he grows very rapidly. That's the thing too. He grows very, very rapidly, and he is very strange. He does a lot of imitation. Like if Gemma will say something, he will repeat it. He repeats mannerisms. He tries to sound like them. It's really creepy. He watches a TV that has like these weird shapes and stuff, and it's just very creepy. And as they're there, obviously they don't have TV or anything anyway to communicate to the outside world. And Tom starts to go a little crazy, as anyone would, and he just decides he's going to start digging this hole. First, he thinks that he hears something down there, and he's just like, let me dig this hole. This is all I have. And so he digs the hole day in, day out. So basically, it just wears him out, and he eventually dies. And then the kid, he grows up, and yeah, it's just a mess. And Gemma is just basically trying to figure out how to escape. And then she realizes, I think, basically that she is also going to die there. That's like them being released is them dying. So anyway, so after they both die, the kid, who is now like an adult, he gets in their car, drives out of Yonder, and then goes back to the real estate agency office. And the old Martin that was there looks like he's about to die. he does die, and then the new kid basically replaces him, who he's now the new Martin. He replaces him, dumps in a thing, and then it's just basically a cycle. It goes over and over and over, and then at the end you see a couple walk into the real estate agency again, and you just know that the whole thing's going to happen all over again to this new couple. Now, the reason that got me into wanting to watch this movie in the first place was, of course, the trailer. I think that's how everyone learns about a movie. I think something that piqued my interest about this film was that the trailer didn't really show what the movie was going to be about. Like, yeah, to some degree it did, but like, not like most. I feel like most trailers, when you watch, you kind of know exactly what's going to be happening in that film. But for this one, I feel like I didn't really get that from it. And so when I saw that it was on Amazon Prime, I was like, hey, let me watch this. Like, it's free to me right now. Usually, you know, a lot of things that are being released right now are like, you have to buy them. But I was like, okay, cool. A little bit about me is I love spoilers. So while I was watching it, I was like, or I think it was more almost towards the end, because it was getting kind of suspenseful, and I think that's why I like watching, like looking at spoilers, because it kind of does a little bit of a release and I don't have as much anxiety like watching the film. But anyways, and so I decided to look it up to see what the ending was going to be before it was going to happen. And the last line of the Wikipedia page that I found is really what kind of sparked my interest, because I probably wouldn't have watched the film. Well, I would have watched the film again, but I probably wouldn't have watched it so close to the first time that I watched it unless I had read this Wikipedia article. And so basically the last line of this article, like I said already, is what piqued my interest, and it made me kind of look up a couple of things more, and then made me want to kind of watch it again and then see if I picked up on anything else that I hadn't already like looked up or had any questions about or anything. So basically, let me just read you the last line of this, I guess, summary. It, like, summarizes the plot. Not even really summary. It literally tells you everything that happened, like kind of like I just did. But anyways, okay. So the last line of it says, a new couple walks into the office, which I told you about, and Martin rises to greet them, concluding one round of the parasitic life cycle of the creatures, much like the cuckoo, which is the cuckoo bird. And when I read that last sentence, I was like, huh? Cuckoo? Like what? Like the bird? And so then I was like, okay. So then I looked up the cuckoo bird, like just to make sure that that's what it was referencing. And I learned that the cuckoo bird is basically a bird that is, like they said, parasitic, kind of. And in that, when it lays an egg, it basically lays its egg or delivers it to another nest. So basically it pawns off its kid to another bird so that it does not have to raise its own baby bird. And so I looked up and I was like, how is that related in any way to this movie? Because clearly, like I said already, I did not pick up on everything, or I was not fully focused on everything the first time around when I watched the film. So I was like, okay. So then I was like, okay, let me look. Well, I guess once I saw the thing about how the bird will pawn off its kid and have someone else raise it, I was like, okay, I get that, because that makes sense in the film. But then I was like, okay, well, let me watch this film over again. And then, so then when I watched it over the second time, I realized that it was right in my face, and that, like, opening scene, like, right when the movie starts, it's showing a bird, like, putting its egg in the other nest, and how once that egg is hatched, it, like, basically kicks off the other birds that are in the nest, and, like, you see that it's, like, a huge bird, basically, compared to the, like, bird that was feeding it, like, the new mom, I guess you can call it, was feeding it, and it's just like, like, you know, like, basically like, it's too big to be in that nest. And so I was like, oh my god, really? I was like, I felt like, how did you miss that? It was literally, I don't know, I guess when I first watched it, I was just like, oh, they just want to put some nature scenes in there. But clearly it was showing that that was the whole, I guess, thing that was going to be happening, basically. And then even those, like, because like I said earlier, Gemma was a teacher. And it even shows, like, one of the, like, her students, like, looking at a dead bird on the ground, which is, I'm assuming, is the one that they showed in the opening credits. And she's like, oh my god, like, this baby bird. And she's like, oh, maybe it was a cuckoo, whatever the heck the name, I don't know how to say it. But anyway, she's like, oh, maybe it's a bird. And then, like, the little girl's like, why would it do that? And then she's like, well, that's just sometimes how it is, or whatever. And then I was like, really? I missed this whole thing? And she literally even says the name of the frickin' bird. So I was like, okay, I felt a little dumb. But then what I thought was interesting, because since I did watch it again, I thought there was a little bit of like foreshadowing, well, one in that little whole scene of discussing it, but then also I thought there was foreshadowing when Tom, you see him burying the like bird that was kicked out of the nest, and he digs like a little hole and he buries it. And I thought that was a little bit of foreshadowing because, as we know, he gets obsessed with digging a hole, and then eventually he is basically digging his own grave when he's digging his hole, but he doesn't even realize it. And so I just thought that was interesting and a little bit of foreshadowing on that part. So then when I was again watching the movie the second time, I decided, okay, that's cool, cuckoo bird, whatever. And then I was like, wait, what does vivarium mean? The name of the movie, because I personally have never heard that word before, and so I was like, oh, let me look up the definition of vivarium. So this is what the definition of vivarium is. I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. So vivarium is an enclosure, a container, or structure adapted or prepared for keeping animals under semi-natural conditions for observations or study. And this title is basically, again, exactly what the film is about. As we all know, well, I'm assuming all of us know who have actually watched the film, it's obvious that this is like an alien that is alien creatures or whatever, placed Gemma and Tom into this suburban place to make them raise the kid. And so I thought it was interesting because once they're there, everything is like it says, semi-natural in the sense like the sun doesn't look like the sun, like the real sun that we all know. It looked fake. The clouds, same thing. Nothing looked like, everything was obviously like real, but it didn't look like the way we like know it to look in real life. That they kind of really like rounded out everything that they were trying to reference in the name and all their like imagery and of the bird, and how that everything kind of played into each other in that sense. And then, but then it also got me thinking like, okay, so like it's obvious that they trick these parents or these couples into living in their vivarium. But like, what was the point of the cycle? I guess I just don't understand what the point of the cycle was. If the cycle is to just have them watch the kid and that kid replace the Martin, like basically it's just a rebirth of Martins over and over and over again, which is like, okay, but I just don't see what the point of that existence is, I guess. Or was the point of it, like the whole vivarium thing, is to study people and like, I guess what they would do in that situation. So maybe just the Martins that were being born over and over again are just like a small thing in the whole like study plan, I guess. So they're just like making people raise these things just so they can study them and study for them for I don't know what personally, I guess just to see maybe what happens to people when they are secluded in a small place with no one else around, or I guess maybe to see how like human nature works and like how we're like all social beings. I don't really know. I guess maybe to see like motherhood, because like I feel like this talk of mothers or being someone's mother was mentioned a lot, or like the point of mothers was being kind of brought up a lot, so maybe that could have been it. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that was just, and then they don't really touch exactly on that, but I mean, again, films are sometimes meant to make you think, so I just think that was one thing that I just was unsure about and didn't understand what the point of it was. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting, so like I said earlier, the child Martin was, he imitated Gemma and Tom a lot, and you know, what they said and how they acted, or like little things that they did. And I just thought this was interesting because I previously used to work in the food industry, and I've always said this. So I'm of course working in food industry or like customer service in general, like, and it's a sad reality, but we're treated like crap basically by people that come in. They just think that they're entitled to, you know, whatever. I mean, it's a mess up. Like I get it, but then I don't get it. Like, yeah, like you're paying for something, so I totally agree in that, you know, you're expecting a type of product, so you should be receiving that type of product. But I don't agree on the delivery sometimes of how people talk. There's like basically zero respect or even just acts of dignity towards people that work in the service industry. But anyways, all of that to say that when parents would talk to me or my coworkers with a large amount of disrespect or degrading or anything like that, it's one thing to do it just as an adult to another adult person, but it's another thing. I always thought it was like, ugh, like it irked me even more when they would do it in front of their children, because to me that was just showing that their behavior to another person they were teaching their kid that that is an acceptable behavior for them to do and that it's okay to talk to other people that way. And it just very irked me because I'm like, no, you shouldn't be teaching your kid that it's okay to talk to people that way. You should be teaching them like, hey, when you are like, you know, when something happens that you're not happy with, you need to make, yeah, like stick up for yourself and ask for the proper thing. But like, I feel like there's just a right and a wrong way to talk to people. But anyways, that's a whole other thing. But I just thought that was interesting because that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of that children are very impressionable and that the way that adults treat or talk or act around them is likely the way that that kid will imitate in the future or think that is an okay behavior. And so I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, so that's everything I kind of found. I didn't look too much more into it because usually I look up fan theories or like what other people thought of it or whatnot, but I decided not to this time just because I wanted to, even though I did kind of look up a little bit, but I wanted to try and formulate my own ideas on it and just see if anything I'm thinking is right or at least headed in the right direction. So let me know what you think down below if you think I totally missed something else, which is probably 100% likely. But that's it for today. I might do more of these. I do tend to think a lot about films and whatnot, maybe do some other stuff. But yeah, again, let me know what you think down below, but I'll talk to you guys or see you guys later. Bye.